Christopher Steele says he used unverified information to support details about web company in dossi. A newly released snippet of a deposition with the ex-British spy behind the Trump-Russia dossier describes some of the steps he took to verify information he collected for it in 2016, including pulling from a user-generated citizen journalism initiative operated by CNN, iReport, which no longer operates. Steele admitted during a lawsuit deposition that he used internet searches and unverified information to support details he had gathered about a web company mentioned in the dossier, according to select pages of his deposition transcript that a federal court unsealed this week. But Steele limited his answers about how he verified information about the web companies who claimed they were defamed. He would not explain, but he could talk about web searches and how he didn't realize one article he found in his research was a submission from a random. Steele testified that he used a 2009 article from the crowdsourced news site CNN iReport, for instance, to check information he learned about Webzilla, one of the three related entities that had sued BuzzFeed for defamation. BuzzFeed published. When asked if he had an understanding of what CNN iReport was, Steele said he did not know. He thought the CNN iReport was a separate citizen journalism initiative from CNN's editorial news service that allowed users to contribute stories, photos, or videos. The acknowledgement has emboldened some critics of the dossier who claim the more explosive points in it are false and unsubstantiated. On Saturday via Twitter, the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., and White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders pointed to Steele's work as tainted because of what was learned in Steele's deposition. Trump has denied the allegations in the Russian dossier, calling it fake. Webzilla's mention in the dossier was central to the lawsuit's question of whether BuzzFeed defamed the company and others by making the document public. The company and ultimately, a federal judge dismissed the web entrepreneur's lawsuit against BuzzFeed before the case could go to trial. BuzzFeed's public, Val Gurevitz, an attorney for Gubarev, XBT, and Webzilla, acknowledged on Saturday that Steele could not answer questions during the deposition about what he did to verify the parts of the dossier unrelated to them. But Steele also wouldn't describe what else he did to verify the dossier's information, or where he got it from, because of the court-ordered parameters of the interview. Steele also used sources he trusted in Russia and elsewhere gathered over a career as a Moscow-based spy for British intelligence to gather information in the dossier, according to the case file. In a separate transcript released in the case, another witness testified that Steele showed him a list of names that were his sources for the dossier. The witness, at least one name Kramer recognized as a serious. Steele, however, felt the dossier's intent was to gather research for private clients, and not to validate the information at the same level of scrutiny as journalists, Steele said in his deposition. The deposition took place in London over the summer after a legal fight over whether Steele would have to answer questions. Steele answered questions for hours in a somewhat tortured process, with 3 sets of lawyers wrangling over American and British laws. The most salacious claims in the dossier are still unverified. But many of this notably includes Steele's claim that Russian President Vladimir Putin oversaw an effort to interfere in the 2016 election. It also includes Steele gathered this stunning information months before U.S. intelligence agencies and Robert Mueller's Office of Special Counsel publicly described the Russian meddling in the election.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. I keep fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.